Okay, so this is my first time going live. I want to say shalom, shalom to all the family out there, all the Yasharala, that's Israel, y'all that know the truth, and also those that don't know the truth. Uh, and according to the scriptures, Israelites are the so-called blacks, or what we call African Americans, or Negroes, Jamaicans, Haitians, West Indians, the Native Americans from North to South America, the Aztecs, Hispanics of North to South America and throughout the islands. When I say shalom, I mean peace to all of y'all. So, for the most part, I want to get right into this. I want to show some depiction because the main subject of today, and I hope everybody got pens and papers ready because I'm gonna go over some scriptures. And before I do that, I'm gonna go over some historical evidence to show you what most Native Americans and Hispanics looked like prior to mixing with the Spaniards and the European colonialism. I'm gonna go into I'm gonna go how even amongst the so-called Negroes, blacks of Jamaica, West Indies, Haiti, America, how we hate our blackness, how we were taught to hate blackness, just like they were. We all were taught to hate black, dark. The darker you are, the less beautiful. And yeah, we're going through awakening, which a lot of our people are starting to pretty much wake up and snap out of it. A lot of our people are starting to take more pride in their blackness and beauty. Not all of them, not most of them, I would say, but there are a lot of our people that are starting to take more, uh, care for, the being melanated, I should say. A lot of our people with a high concentration of melanin have always in this country been taught to hate their features, to hate from their neck, woolly hair all the way to the brown or darker brown skin, And I'm gonna show pretty much how, according to the scriptures, we were always referred to as what we would call a black people. I know a lot of people like to use that term black because we know there's a definition in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary for the word black, which when you look at that definition, it means a lot of evil things. But that's not all it means because the scripture does have the Hebrew. There is a word for black, in that Hebrew word for black doesn't necessarily represent what we would call evil and disgusting and hateful things. It just actually, as far as hue and skin color, pigmentation, and things of that sort. So blackness was used to or black was used to describe our people, and that's why we're gonna go into the King James Bible Dictionary and show many instances of where the word black was actually applied to our people. But before we do that, I want to get the Zondervan's Bible Dictionary. I want to get the Webster's Dictionary. I'm pulling it up right now. I'm just gonna look at this word black real fast. I'm gonna look up the word black. All right. This is the definition according to the Webster's Dictionary for the word black. Check this out. It says of the color of coal. So we know black could be extremely black. It could be the color of coal, but coal is not the only thing that is black. It says colored black. Verse number 2, very dark, a black night, meaning nighttime is also considered a black night, often capitalized or relating to various groups of people having dark pigmentation of skin. So it can also mean, even in English, it could just mean having a dark pigmentation of skin, which is the most commonly used when you're dealing with people, often capitalized, of or relating to African American people or culture. Meaning, even if you're not dark skinned, if you're considered of that so called African American people or follow after their culture, people might consider you black. Very sad or gloomy, in a black mood. So it can also be a mood, you know. I'm gonna get another definition of the word black. This is let me get another definition for the word black. because a lot of people act like they have to be scared of this word black. Another word in the Hispanic realm, uh when it comes to the word black, it's the word negro is used. For the lighter ones, mulatto, the word mulatto might be applied. So I'm gonna go into another dictionary, and this is still a Webster's 1913 dictionary. Webster's 1913 dictionary. Y'all can literally just Google this if y'all want the definition for this. But this is the first definition. It says destitute of light. See, and this is one of some of these definitions, the main reason why our people don't even like to acknowledge that they are a black people, right? And I'm gonna say this, because um the word black, actually as a color or as a determination of a people is completely different than what our race is actually called. It's not that our race is called the blacks. There's no such thing as the black race. There are many races of people that have pigmentation or dark pigmentation, you know, and so we want to be mindful of that. All races started off with dark pigmentation, various different shades of dark pigmentation, and then when a particular nation, which we call Caucasian today, or so-called European, came on the scene, then a lot of mixing started happening amongst the nations, including with our nation and the Israelites or the Hebrews. We are the original Hebrews according to history, according to the Bible, and according to a lot of various other sources from archaeology and other cultures' history. They always knew that the Hebrews, the true Hebrews, were a so-called Afro people, people having afros, or a so-called Negroid people. But I'm not going to use that term Negroid because Negroid can also apply to black races outside of ours. So let's go into this definition. It says destitute of light or incapable of reflecting it. Incapable of reflecting light. So that definitely can't be us because, we reflect like you can see the light glowing off of our melanin. He says of the color of soot or coal, of the darkest or very dark color, the opposite of white. It's the opposite of white. Characterized by such a color as black cloth, black hair, or eyes, or night with hue so black. So I just want to throw that out there that there is no race of people actually called that are actually black or white. We just call ourselves these things, right? This is the number two. It says, in a less literal sense, enveloped or shrouded in darkness, very dark or gloomy, as a black night, the heavens black with clouds. I spy a black, suspicious, threatening cloud. So that's number two. Number three, it says dismal, gloomy, or forbidding, like darkness, like darkness, destitute of moral light or goodness, atrociously wicked, cruel, mournful, calamitous, horrible. So our people will read this third definition and just say, you know what, that's what black just means in itself. So why would call ourselves black when that's what it means? No, it has many different meanings, and depending on how you use it, it don't personify this particular meaning of it at all. Verse 4. Definition number 4, expressing menace or discontent, threatening, sulling, foreboding as to regard one with black looks. So this is actually sounds really racist right here. This is what they would characterize black people as. All they did definition was go into what we call being black, you know. But it says the English Statute 9 George the First, which makes it a felony to appear armed in any park of Warren, etc., or to hunt or steal deer, etc., with the face blackened or disguised. Uh, Subsequently acted, inflicting heavy penalties for malicious injuries to cattle, machinery, have been called black acts. So these are so you can see it had a connotation in certain definitions that came with evil, and So from there, I'm gonna go on ahead and just dive right into it. Now that we got that out the way. Oh snap! This ain't even. Is this long? Okay, yeah. And now that we got that out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and uh, show some of the images. I want to show these images before we dive into the videos I want to show, because these images is what the so-called, and I'm gonna say so-called Native Americans and so-called Hispanics, so-called Negroes. I'm gonna say so-called when they're referring to us as anything but Hebrew or Israelites, because we're not these. So-called means to be ignorantly called something, and we are not these words. Before I even get into that, I want to bring it out the King James 1611 edition. You know, and King James, when you do the history, I'm gonna bring a lesson out that King James was the last black king of Europe. That if you ever see that movie, The Last King of Scotland, with Forrest Whitaker, showed you a black man playing a role, is because the last king of Scotland was actually King James, the last black king of Scotland. And all of Europe was ruled by black people who we call Moors from 711 AD all the way up to the 1400s. So I want to show you what this what's in Deuteronomy 28 and 37, so we can understand exactly that we're being labeled something that we were not called throughout history. And even the word Moors is a Latin word that just means black. So that's not even their original heritage. What were they called prior to 711 AD? So I'm gonna bring this out, Now I really didn't expect to do this lesson. I just was testing out this, see if I can go live, and I actually can. So I'm gonna bring out a little something, something, since now that I see that it's working, rather than just shutting it back off. I want people to see what we doing. I see my baby in the chat. Oh, I see the elder. Hey, the elders in the chat. Hey, the elders in the chat. You know what I'm saying? We got Elder Barack in the chat. Monty King, hopping in. To support my first live stream. It's funny because I was just really testing this thing, and then we already got people on this thing. I expected my wife to be on because she right behind me, but we got the elder on. And I'm gonna go back and edit this video up. Uh, you know, uh, so, but for the most part, I'm gonna bring it out as good as I possibly can regarding this particular subject, because we deal with this a lot in the nation. We deal with a lot of hatred, for our roots, and we don't really have a good understanding of Genesis and how all the people were set up back then, and how the differences of people start to come over the year with the mixing and all of these things that them taking places, from phenotype, genes, genetics, melanin types. There's many different things that we and especially with Esau's science, that we get confused with today, that we don't understand how it applied in those times. So this is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, and I'm gonna start from verse 37. It says, "And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all the nations that the Lord shall lead thee." So this is one of the curses that the Most High put on the Hebrews, that will become a proverb and an astonishment. But the main thing I want to focus on is this word byword. We will be called things other than what we were called originally. That's what that byword means. You're not being called what you were called originally. So that's one thing that I wanted to bring out. Deuteronomy 28 and 37 is that among all these different nations that were scattered, we are called bywords. We're called things like blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, Negritos, Filipinos, you name it. We're in every country that we scatter. A lot of us call ourselves by the people that enslaved us. So we got people in Palestine, they call themselves Palestinian today. We got people in Saudi Arabia, they call themselves Arabian. We got people all throughout Africa that they call themselves after the various different African Hamites that countries that they name. So, they might call themselves Nigeria, or Ghanaian, even though there's people in those countries that are separate from them and still have melanin. They're not all black people or so-called black people are not the same race. Black itself is not a race, it's just a pigmentation. And when we read the definition, it's not just a pigmentation, depending on how you use the word, what meaning you're giving to it, because it has a lot of evil connotations to it as well, depending on what you're talking about. Like, you can be in a black mood, the night is black, you know what I'm saying? It's talking about the color of black, but is night always black? You know what I'm saying? The night can be blue. It might seem a dark blue sometimes. So it's just talking about the darkness of it. So I'm gonna hop in now and show on my phone some of the ancient depiction. I'm gonna show a lot of them because the more you show, the more we can understand how they depicted themselves. And how they depicted themselves is way more important to understand than leaning on our understanding about how these people drew themselves. And when you see the majority of the drawings and how they drew themselves, that's what matters. So we can understand, well, why do our people look a lot different than the depictions that they used to draw now? And we're going to get into that and the reason why, and we're going to get into the seed, and that is really that seed that counts. So a lot of our people can learn how to stop hating each other for being darker or lighter. We should have no hatred amongst our own people, just because of a particular skin color or phenotype or facial structure or any of that is nonsense. And our people that teach things like Negro only, that doesn't even make sense, because Negro is a byword. What is a Negroid? That's a white man's term, and we're gonna get into who created those terms, because all of these words have a root and origin, an etymology. And the people that constructed them did those particularly to confuse us and deceive the whole world about us. So uh, let's get let's get ancient. I'm typing in ancient depictions. First, I'm gonna start with the Aztecians, right? Ancient depiction of the Aztecians, right? We're gonna go into the images, right? And right away, what you start seeing, let me see. If I don't know if y'all can see that, but right away, you start seeing images of brown, black, blackish looking people. You can see them stones, but I want y'all to pay attention to the paintings, the actual paintings. Now you see that? That's the Aztecian too. That one's lighter. You see that one over on the side? Let me get it, because there's a lot of these. And you're gonna see some of them are newer. We want to pay attention to the older ones, because the newer ones we know were drawn by people that lived recently. The older ones were actually the ancient ones. The ancient depictions are what matters. You know what I'm saying? We don't care about the modern depictions, because anybody can take a modern depiction and make it lighter. Now you see that? This is what these people, you see black, some of them black, some of them real brown, you know, tannish looking right here, showing you. And we want to, like I said, we want to focus on the majority of how they look. You see these right here? Brownish, black people. That one's, he's real reddish brown. You see that reddish brown? We've always had that. That would be like that ruddy cutter that King David is described as when we read the book of Samuel's. And like I said, we're not focusing on these symbols right here that were recently drawn. We want to look at those ones. You see that? See that? More brown and blackish people. That look like the same picture that was above, but let's keep going down. Because we're going to first get the Aztecians, then we're going to get the Mayans, the Incas. Let me finish. Finish scrolling. You know, you see that? And you see they had they had many different colors, the color all of their accessories and their drawings. You see that? We know there wasn't green people. So those are suits. I don't even know if that's an ancient depiction or not. But I want to mainly just focus on the fact that there are different colors of shades of brown and black peoples. See, that one's in stone. That's the main ones that I'll be trying to get at. The stones, the paintings. See that there? You see that? And they always had different textures of hair, whether it be from woolly to slick hair. You know, like you know, you, they've always had different textures of hair, not just like wool. Not everybody had hair exactly like Christ. And in most of these images, now I'm gonna get into I'm gonna type in something else so you can see even more depictions. Because the scripture says our people will be without image, in book of Hosea. So I want to bring some imagery so you can have the right idea of what these people drew themselves to be like. That you can see we always have from super dark black all the way up into light, what I'm saying, what we call light skin. We've always had that in the Americas, into just like in Africa, we still have that in Africa today with certain tribes, and not just of the Israelites, but of Hamites as well. Other nations of people, they're not just super jet black, and they're not just brown. They have lighter hues of melanin as well. So we can't be just, I would say, superstitious about what makes a person what race they are, because that's what it is. You get into superstition, then you got people that say, oh, well, me not black, when really you come from a so-called what we call a black people. There's nothing wrong with admitting that. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's what the problem comes with, a lot of people not trusting each other when you say that you don't come from something that the predominantly your people were. So we get that a lot in the Hispanic. That's why I got to show these videos so you can see how these people, how they, how they, how they think, how they talk. A lot of them don't even want to admit that they're Native American. A lot of them don't even want to admit. They all think they're European and Spanish because they know that's where their whiteness comes from. That's where the lighter side of them come from. So let's get, trying to find the right. Okay, here it goes. And bear with me if I'm taking too long, man. I'm not. Yeah, I was hoping I would be able to screen share, but I don't know how to do that yet. Like I said, this is my first time live streaming. My first time. Okay, and I want to get right, right here. Okay. Now you see, this is how the natives depicted themselves. This is how the Europeans depicted the natives when they first got here. We go over. This is how they depicted the natives. You see that? This is how they depicted the natives when they got over here, the Europeans. When this is just this right here was actually an article about what they really look like. Did they look like the one in the middle, or did they look like the surrounding ones? Right? Because the $5 Indians, they were going into look like her right here. And over time, they started changing, but for the most part, they never had these particular looks right here. The $5 Indians. These are the real Indians, right? And so you see, this is how they depicted the Native Americans in Brazil. You know, keep on going. Oh, now this one's is the one in the homie. We don't want that one. This is in Brazil again. See, it says Brasilia. This is how the natives look. You see them right there? And you see this white man is a European. You see the abominations that he poured out? That's what that represent, what he came and poured out. While they're all naked, I don't know. It was a European that actually drew this. So leave it up to Esau. That's what you're going to get. But you see, this is how they drew the natives. You see, brown and so-called darker brown. As I go on, oh, that's somebody that I'm doing business with. Now we going back into how the Aztecs drew themselves. This is how the Aztecs drew themselves. This is in their temples. Them temples, they don't want us to really know what's in them, but we got internet now. We can look these up, and these is on their walls. This is not a drawing. See, this the stone drawings speak 1,000 more words, because these aren't something that they just painted on a paper. We can say that they came up at any point in time. This is something that been on the walls, and they have more. Look at that. This is how the natives. This is the Aztecians. You know, look, more Aztecians. You know, more Aztecians, but they, a lot of time they won't show you this. That's why I'm gonna show some videos to show you that there are still Mexicans that look like this as well. They're not all just light skinned. Most of them, when you look at how many more images like this are, you're gonna see that this is not the majority of how they used to. This is the majority of how they used to draw their people. But I'm also going to show you some lighter ones too, so you can see that they always were variations, but they were predominantly this color and all the way up to a lighter brown. You see that? And we know why most of them, or half of them, I'm gonna say half of them, we know why half of them don't look like this anymore. You know what I'm saying? Look how they doing each other. This is the Aztec fighting against the Mayans. Aztec versus Mayan. You see how the Mayans look? Look. You see this one, even though he brown, you can kind of see he got like lockish hair. His hair kind of lockish. You know what I'm saying? You see the really dark chocolate looking one, and you see a lighter brown one, right? Thing is, they've always looked variations like this. This is how they look. This is your people. This how the natives and the Hispanics, before they were called natives and Hispanics, this is how they looked. This is before the European colonization and the mixing, to where we can have some people that don't really look like these anymore, but they are still the descendants of these people by seed. So they're still Israelites, whether they look like this anymore or not. You see this? They got a dark Uncle Boogala looking one right there. Then they got a Tonky looking brown one right there. Why I say it like that, who knows? That's my discretion. But that's my preference. But check this out. I mean, look, look. He look like he's sick with something, but nah, it's not sick. This is just they used to paint their bodies with stuff, going against God's commandments. But these are God's people right here. More of God's people. Now look at this one. You see this brown one, right? These two brown ones. Now you see the locks. And these people were similar to how this looked. They were, all of them wasn't just dark black, or dark brown, or light brown. Some of them was a little bit lighter. They were tannish looking, but you still see they would have different hairstyles. They would have locks and things like that growing as well. You know, that's why when I be seeing Issachar and Ephraim or certain other the Northern Kingdom tribes with their locks growing, I'll be loving it because you know this is something they've always done. You need to put some damn clothes on though. That one looks like a slave. It looks like they see they was enslaving their own people, and this is one of the reasons why the Most High sent the Europeans against them because they was doing wretched, wicked things. Look more, and I can go on for days. I got so many images like this. I can go on for days. Look, more darker ones and brown ones. You know, look. This is in a walls. This is in the walls. So the reason why I'm showing all of these, look, you see all them locks. Now these are the Incas. These are the Incas. Notice how similar the Incas look compared to the Aztecs. How they draw the same type of styles. Oh, Salakia. These are not the Incas. These are the Mayans. These are the Mayans. But notice how the Mayans and the Incas was so similar in their drawing styles, but how they drew their people, brown, brown people. You know, this is the majority of the pictures that you're going to find when you see them. Look, another whole different picture. Look at it. Locks. Mayans with locks. And so these people today will be in Guatemala, Panama, El Salvador. A lot of them lighter MS-13, you know what I'm saying, killers and gangsters. That this was their ancestors. That's you know. So with that, you know, I'm gonna show some things now. I'm gonna play this little quick video first, and I'm gonna show y'all. I probably won't play the whole video, but I just want to give y'all a good view of how um how far from understanding our people have been removed. Now, this is and I'm gonna show you that a lot of them still consider themselves so-called Afro or Negroid or so-called African, and even though that's not who we are, they understand that they still identify somewhat with blackness, you know, because that's the thing is melanin, you know, identified from with a melanated people. You know, they understand that was the bulk and majority of their ancestral depiction. You know, they're not blind to that in a lot of areas in the Hispanic so-called Hispanic realm. So let's get this. Okay. And so there's a lot of videos about this. So we want to make sure we understand, you know, exactly how they depicted themselves, you know. Let me get it. There's so many videos on newer videos on this. I didn't even realize it. Oh man, they got some good. They got a bunch of good videos right here. I'm trying to get to a certain one, and I'm gonna show. I want to show a few of them, so I'm gonna probably go through a few of these different videos. But I just want to make sure. Okay, that's a long video. Come on, where's my video? And just bear with me. Like I said, I'm gonna go back and edit the video real good to shorten it up. I don't want it to be a long spiel, you know. But I just want to make sure we get to the points. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. So this is going over the identity of Latinos and if they even identify as natives. Do they even identify as natives? A lot of Latinos, we're going to find out that a lot of them don't identify as natives. Let's see. Oh man, that's not even a video. Salakia, that's not even a video. That's a whole different topic. Boy, it doesn't. Where's my video? Okay. Okay, this is one video.
Hi there, this is your Auntie Amanda. We have a question for We Are Native. So, dear Auntie, I have a question that's been on my mind lately. So, I'm labeled as a Mexican. Are Mexicans considered Native Americans? So, I love this question because it makes me think of a story that my grandma, used to tell me. And she used to say that we're all the same people. And I didn't really know what she meant by this until I was doing a study abroad program in Chile in South America. And we were watching a parade with the family that I was staying with. And they had regular, parade stuff, floats and everything. But they also had indigenous people of Chile walking down. And I remember seeing this group of people, and they looked just like Zunis, like head to toe, dressed exactly like Zunis dress in their traditional outfits. And I was tripping out. And I'm telling the family that I'm with, there's only one Zuni tribe. Me off, yeah, we're all kind of. And then we went to the South Chile. To visit the family that I was staying with, their parents, so their grandparents. And we're driving into town, and there's these adobe houses, like mud houses, mud ovens, like they have in Pueblo tribes in the Southwest, like we do in Zuni. And we sit down at the dinner table, and they're having oven bread, and I'm like majorly tripping out. And I'm trying to tell the grandma, in Spanish, like all about Zunis and where we come from and the food that we eat. And, same thing, just like my Jota. Like, yeah, we're all the same people. And I was just, blown away, And so I couldn't wait to get back home. And when I got back home, I'm telling my Jota this. And, there's this group of Zunis that live in Chile and South America. And my grandma, same thing, like, we're all the same people. And so she starts to tell me our creation story, which I've heard hundreds of times growing up. But she adds another piece to it. So she's telling me about how, Zunis believe that we came from the center of the world, and then we walked through different stages, and then we finally ended up in the Grand Canyon. And we walked down to where Zuni is now, and that's the center of the world, center of the universe. And then there was another group that continued to walk south. And so it all came together as like, well, this is like, I found them. Like, this is the group, that kept walking down south. Like, these are, our relatives. And so I guess in a roundabout way, I'm getting to the answer to your question. And I am going to kind of leave it up to you, but I think you can look at it from two different perspectives. So you can look at it from the perspectives of the elders in my story. We're all the same people. Or you can look at it through government classification. So we do have to answer to demographic questions by answering questions about our race and who we identify with on the census that we take. But I leave it up to you. I like to look at things from different perspectives, but it's your choice. So thanks for the question. It was fun thinking about it. Bye.
So the main point of that is to show you that the younger generation, especially, notice she was talking about her elders, the saying we all the same people. But in this generation, especially due to government classification, they don't even look. They don't even. She had to be told this that that they were all the same people. Meaning what? What does that mean? That mean they didn't identify as that. They didn't identify as she didn't identify everybody, especially she didn't even know that there was other tribes of Native Americans that had the same culture, as her in New Mexico. But her grandma knew that they were all the same. This is another video, and I want to show you because a lot of Hispanics don't speak Spanish. But hold on, why are you called Hispanic? Why are you so called Hispanic? But their parents do, right? So this is a lot of them, and it's funny because the people of that land, they were not originally speaking Spanish, right? I'm gonna show this video real fast. Hey, Grant Cardone here. What if I told you Grant Cardone, get off my phone. This dude's always popping up every other video. Just ignore him. Third generation Latinos. But this is the third generation, right? A lot of them don't even speak Spanish no more, but a lot of people think that that's their original language. This is the Europeans' language. Spanish growing up. She learned it later in life as she rose to fame. Other third-generation Latinos who don't fluently speak Spanish, a pair of prominent political figures, the Castro brothers. Congressman Joaquin Castro says his grandmother spoke mainly Spanish, but he says after his parents were punished for speaking Spanish at school, he and his brother, former San Antonio mayor and presidential candidate Julian Castro, were taught English. It was beaten out of a generation of people. And also, if you look over the years at other immigrant groups, whether it was Italians or Germans or French, whoever, over time, there's a loss of language. Norma Ochoa is 70 years old. Her first language was Spanish. And while in school in San Antonio in second grade, she says a teacher shamed her for speaking Spanish in the classroom. And it made an impact on her. I felt she demeaned me. And I felt that I wasn't good enough to be there. And I didn't want to go to school. So after that, after maybe a week or two in school of having all that cast upon me, I just felt like I didn't belong there. That ostracization led to the decision to only teach English to her children. I definitely decided that I was not going to let this happen to my daughters. Norma's adult daughter, Nicole, says she knows her mother did this out of love and protection. She doesn't blame second-generation parents for not teaching their children Spanish, but society from that era. So I felt very separated from my culture. I felt very, I wasn't considered Anglo, and I wasn't considered Hispanic. So then where did I fall? Castro says just because a Latina or Latino doesn't speak Spanish, it doesn't make them any less Hispanic. He says there are so many different ways to embrace your roots. So now the main reason why I'm showing that is to show you that whether it's English or Spanish, that's not your heritage. That's not your original culture. The people of that land, the Aztecs and the Mayans, didn't speak Spanish. But you see how brainwashed our people are. They think that being Hispanic is actually their original culture. Hispanic actually means to be a property of Hispaniola. That's what a Hispanic is, meaning the Spaniards conquered you. You're the property of the Spaniard. So to call yourself Hispanic is actually a derogatory term. So I'm just showing that video to show you how even when the government does things like that to where they beat one culture out of you and force you to embrace another culture, you might get stuck in thinking that culture that was beat out of you was your original culture. But really, no, that was forced on you too. So you got more digging to do. That's why we call it getting back to our roots. You still have more digging to do. I see Elder Yana Ya in the chat, man. Shalom, shalom. Just shalom. I got both of my elders on here. That's real double honors right there. I got two elders on here. That's real double honors right there. So I'm gonna show some more. I want to show some more because I still ain't even got to the main video. I really want us to pay attention to. Here we go. Hispanic. Let's see. Okay. No. Okay, now this right here. This is one of the videos that I wanted to show, but there's still a few more that are going to hit home. You know, then I'm gonna start showing more. But check this out.
Hi, I'm Christina Aru with another episode of Catalina Stars Young and Famous.
If you ask young podcaster Christina Aru her race,
at first I only knew I was Cuban, and then when I learned I was Latina, I did not know, like, I thought that meant I couldn't be Cuban anymore.
You won't hear her say white, black, Asian, Pacific Islander, because in the race box, many Hispanics and Latinos are lost.
We're not a race. We are so different, and that's the problem too. We're so many countries, and you're trying to just bottle us up.
Christina's mom, Kathy Aru, a journalist and founder of Latina magazine Catalina, has battled with this topic since she started the magazine 10 years ago.
I called it Catalina because there was such a controversy on what to label ourselves. So I went with my name, Catherine, in Spanish.
The word Hispanic refers to those who are from a Spanish-speaking country, but Latino or Latina includes people from countries in Latin America who speak Spanish, Portuguese, or other indigenous languages. Often the two terms are mistakenly used interchangeably, yet the words Hispanic and Latino identify an ethnicity, not a race.
So when it comes to the data collected, we have limited options. When we think about a race, we are either white, black, Asian American, Native American. We can choose one of those races. Well, Hispanic, Latino becomes an ethnicity. And I think that's where we struggle, many of us, is where do we fit in?
In some cases, choosing ethnicity is not even an option on data collection forms, and identifying race and ethnicity gets more complex in many cases. Hispanics and Latinos can identify as white or black as well. But what happens when you're in between?
My 11-year-old found a mug that it was a coffee mug, café con leche, and there were different colors. It went from pale to darker, and it depends how much milk you add to your coffee. And that's how we've been able to explain our colors in our family. But there are no boxes for that.
Dr. Cristobal Salinas believes new words need to be introduced to the race box.
But I think we will eventually become a race. It's just a matter of time and who is making that decision for us.
And today I'm going to be interviewing a Latinx skateboarder, Steven Pinera.
If these simple words matter, it's going to take Hispanics and Latinos using their voices to make the change. I'm Russell Haythorne, Denver 7.
So that right there is powerful because it shows you the confusion of our people. I'm going to read this verse again because they just showed you that they, by definition, by this whole little situation, if this ain't the curses of the Hebrews, then what is it? I'm gonna start from Deuteronomy 28 verse 15 so we can even get the full context. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 15. It says, "But it shall come to pass if thou wilt hearken unto the voice, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come up on thee and overtake thee." All these curses would come up on you and overtake you. Now let's read the curse again. Verse 37. "And thou shalt become an astonishment." Ain't an astonishment not even knowing what race you are, trying to identify with all these different ethnicities and not even really understanding. Then you like, oh, well, we all come from all these countries, but we all identify as the same thing. If that ain't confusion, if that ain't astonishment, I don't know what the hell is astonishment. What could be a bigger astonishment to a person but to be confused about what race they are? I'm going to go more. It says a proverb and a byword. They're a byword. They don't know what race they are. They call everything else but what their race is. They're called all these different ethnicities. Portuguese, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, Cuban. She said Cuban and Latino. She said, I found out I was Cuban I always thought I was Cuban. I found out I was Latina too. But Cubans identify as Latinas already. Like, to find that out when that was something that's always been well known to the Cuban people, that they were, they even call them Afro Latinos or Latinos. It just, all the confusion comes to an end. We got to learn who we are and just get rid of all this confusion. This confusion is destroying our people. And it says, a byword among all the nations whither the Lord shall lead thee. Meaning, among all those countries that the Lord shall lead thee. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, those, you keep showing me these images of those people that's Hispanics, and they are much, much lighter than practically all them pictures of the ancients. Them ancient Indians, the ancient Hispanic, ancient Native Americans. Before they were called Hispanics and Native Americans, they were classified as Aztecs, Incas, Mayans. Well, why are a lot of them so lighter in comparison to, you know, who they are? And why do certain ones have different features? Our people have been mixing with different races since the beginning. In the beginning, we mixed with more darker races. In these last days, we mix more with Esau, since he's the main enemy that rules over us, and he's running all over the world, spreading his seed amongst all nations. So I have to read this verse right here, and y'all bear with me because this is a hard hitter right here, and this should clear up all the confusion for a lot of those people that don't understand why we have so much lighter. We might even have literally Caucasian looking Israelites, to where they might not look like Israelites at all, but you'll find out, like what's his name, Andrew Tate, powerful speaker, powerful brother that be standing up for manhood. But you look at Andrew Tate, had a video where a sister called him a white man, and he said, hold on, you clearly got me messed up. Let me, since somebody pull up a picture of my father, and they show you this Afro brother, this brother with this a lot of melanin, almost as dark as me, not quite as dark, but you're like, man, this is my dad. So learn who you speaking. And he told her just like this. So learn who you speaking about before you make accusations like that, because I'm not a white man. You know what I'm saying? But you would never know. So we gotta really. I'm gonna read this verse, and then I'm gonna read another verse to understand why it's important to get back to our roots and really search out who we are. Because and I ain't saying who we are as far as even knowing that we Israelites, but just knowing what your grandpa and your great grandpa, where they come from, you know, understanding exactly how they feel towards actual their ancestors, because they'll tell you, like the scriptures tell you, your fathers will tell you, ask your elders and they will tell you. So this is the book of Hosea, chapter 7, verse 8. It says, Ephraim represents all the 10 tribes of Israel that were taken away captive. All the 10 tribes that were taken away captive into and eventually came to the Americas. He said, Ephraim has mixed himself among the people. Tell you right there, they mixed themselves amongst the people. So a lot of people ask, well, how come they so lighter? They mixed. It's a simple damn question. They mixed, but you are what your father are. There's no such thing as mixed to the Most High. You are still what your father is. That's why he still can identify Ephraim after mixing with these people. He can still identify the northern tribes. He says, Ephraim is a cake unturned. Now, if you look at a pancake, you know what I'm saying? If you look at a pancake, right? A cake that's not turned over yet, right? Before you turn that cake over, what does it look like? Just like my hand. One side is lighter, the other side dark, because it's been cooked. So they are cake unturned, meaning half of them going to be dark, half of them light in these last days. If you don't like that, then you just don't like the Bible. So we're going to read on. It says, strangers have devoured his strength, and he knoweth it not. Because they took away their heritage. They made them forget where they came from. They made them not even, a lot of them don't have no respect for darker people. They don't even want to identify as with the darker of their people. You know, they try to act like they completely separate. You know, a lot of them show a hatred towards the dark. It could be darker people in their own family. I'm gonna show videos that even in their own family, they hated their darkness. They hated their blackness, you know. So this is something that our brothers in that Hispanic, Native American, because this is one of the reasons why a lot of brothers that are darker or darker tribes might vex you. You know, they might vex you because that and try to not consider you an Israelite at all because you're showing hatred towards a root that you come from, as far as being a melanated people, being a highly melanated people. Melanin has power in it. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with saying that you come from a melanated, highly melanated, concentrated people, you know, that you mixed over time with people that weakened you, according to this scripture right here. It said they weakened you. It says strangers, meaning a race of people that are not of your people. They're strangers to you. The Europeans, the Caucasians, he said, have devoured his strength. They devoured your strength in so many ways, from knowing who you are to, you know, caring about, you know, the caring about it. You know what I'm saying? From knowing it to caring about it, they destroyed you. Now you're out there celebrating Puerto Rican pride. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You're celebrating pride and in the culture of the heathen rather than trying to get back to your roots. So he says, yeah, gray hairs are here and there upon him, yet he knoweth not. Meaning they've been in this situation so long that gray hairs will be on their head and they still don't know who they are. They'll know, you know what I'm saying? Even their elders, you know, been mixing so long, they don't even, a lot of them might not even identify with, you know, the blackness no more, even though they are Belita, blacker than me, hair nappier than mine. You know what I'm saying? He said, verse 10, and the pride of Israel testified to his face. See, the pride. That's why I was just saying they celebrate that Puerto Rican pride. You know what I'm saying? They celebrate Hispanic pride, Mexican pride, brown pride, all these different prides, but that's not what that's not what you're supposed to have pride in. You're supposed to have pride in knowing who you were originally, before you were named all these bywords, right? He says, in the pride of Israel testified to his face, and they do not return. He said, and they do not return to the Lord their God, neither seek for all this. Neither seek him for all of this. Try to seek the Most High for all the Catholic and Catholicism and the European religions. They're so caught up in things that don't pertain. It's just wicked, you know what I'm saying? So we got to make sure that these brothers and sisters understand, you know, our brothers and sisters in that Latino community, in the Native American community as well, because a lot of them been infiltrated by $5 Indians. If you know what a $5 Indian is, I'm gonna look it up for you right now, so y'all can understand what a $5 Indian is, and that a lot of them were benefiting from the benefits that were supposed to be given to our brothers that are Native American. That and they were the ones, the Europeans were the ones benefiting from those things more than our people that were really Native Americans, more than especially the darker ones. The darker you get, you know. And what happens on those reservations? They start mixing with those $5 Indians. So a lot of them are lighter because they mix with $5 Indian women. So check this out. I'm gonna type it in, $5 Indian. Look, it pops up, right? Now, this is right here. We're going to read it. It says, paying to play Indian, the Dawes Rose, and the legacy of $5 Indians. So we're going to see this because this was happening in great numbers. This was not happening in small numbers. These so-called Caucasian people, the Englishman, the Spaniard man, they were pretending to be Native Americans, paying to play Indian, you know. So check this out. And they were getting paid to pretend to be us, right? Check this out. Paying a commission, $5, could get an opportunistic white person on the Dawes Rolls 125 years ago. Look how long ago that was. Imagine all the mixing you can do with these people 125 years ago when they're infiltrating your reservations in your communities. He says, which causes problem for tribes today. Hold on. It's which still causes problems for tribes today. Oh, wow. It may be fashionable to play Indian now, but it was also trendy 125 years ago, and people paid $5. Now it's showing you that there's still white people pretending to be Native Americans today, and I can show you a bunch of videos and images of that. You know, these people popping up our powwows, and we treat them just like our own. We treat them just like we don't see the Irish and the Portuguese in them. You know what I'm saying? Whole family be white at the powwows. And y'all know I'm telling the truth. Y'all know I'm telling the truth, man. I've been through the powwows when I was younger. I got Cherokee and Blackfoot on my side of the family. And when I remember the powwows, it was a bunch of white people that we clearly, a lot of times I would hear people talking about them under their breath, and when nobody addressed them about it. Like they feared to speak up about it. Just like a lot of them still doing. So he said, these so-called $5 Indians pay government agents under the table in order to reap the benefits that came with having Indian blood. Mainly white men with an appetite for land. $5 Indians paid to register on the Dawes Rolls, earning fraudulent enrollment in tribes along with benefits inherited by generations to come. These were opportunistic white men who wanted access to the land or food rations, said Gregory Smithers, associate professor of history at Virginia Commonwealth University. They're exposing themselves. These people are exposing themselves. And it's funny because you know when white men bring their daughters around some black and Native American people, what happens? We start impregnating them. You know what I'm saying? They start trying to come to us quicker than they would go to their own men. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's just nothing but population all over the place. That's why they do their best to have population control over us. But I want to digress, so let me finish. It said these were people who were more than happy to exploit the Dawes Commission and government agents and government agents for $5 were willing to turn a blind eye to the graft and corruption. For $5? $5 was a lot of money back then, 125 years ago. You got to remember that. It says the Dawes Commission, established in 1893 to enforce the General Allotment Act of 1887, or the Dawes Act, was charged with convincing tribes to cede their land to the United States and divided remaining land into the individual allotments. So they tricked the true natives in order to make way for the so-called $5 Indians. This is why a lot of the Native Americans today don't even know they're Native American. They might tell you they got Indian in their family because they think that they're just black. You know what I'm saying? They think they're African American. A lot of y'all not even Judah. A lot of y'all Gad and Reuben. A lot of y'all not even Judah. A lot of y'all Gad and Reuben. You know what I'm saying? Like my mama, she know, like in her side of the family, they know all say they got Indian in their family, but they can tell you where they get the Indian from. They can't tell you where they get the so-called black from. They can't tell you where they get the African from. Me, I can't because I know my dad knows his lineage. You know what I'm saying? My dad knew more degree to his lineage. You know, my dad didn't come from no reservation. My mama's grandmother came from a reservation, and she married my great grandpa. My great grandma married my great grandpa. He was an Irish on my mama's side. She was an Irish mixed with Native American. He married a full blown Native American woman that, you know, I can pull up a picture of her. You can tell she's got that Native American features. Maybe I'll find a picture of her and I'll put it in and edit it in the video so y'all can see. Then I'll put it up side of the older pictures of Native Americans. But I just want y'all to see this so y'all can understand, you know, our people have been duped. Our people have been duped by $5 Indians. So I want to finish reading. It says the commission also required Indians to claim membership in only one tribe and register on the Dawes Rolls. See that? It says was what the government meant to be a definitive record of individuals with Indian blood. So they that was trickery. That was treacherous. You know, he said they were only allowed to claim one tribe. Check this out. The Curtis Act. Check this out, because a lot of our people don't know about the Curtis Act. The Curtis Act passed in 1898, targeting targeting the 5 civilized tribes. For y'all who do not know who the 5 civilized tribes is, it showed you right there. The Cherokee, the Choctaw, also referred to as Chickasaw. It actually said Chickasaw right there. The Creek and the Seminole. These were the 5 civilized tribes, the most duped tribes, the biggest tribe that didn't receive much, right? It says forcing them to accept allotments and register on the Dawes rolls, right? The 2 acts which came during a period of murky social context after the Civil War, when white and black men were intermarrying with Native American women. Ha! You see that? Man, I ain't making this up, man. He said intermarry when white and black men were intermarrying with Native American women, aimed to help the government. And by black, they mean so-called the blacks that were so-called people, African Americans that were brought on slave ships, because the natives were the same shades as those men that came over here. There's no damn black. It says aim to help the government keep track of real Indians while excelling. Now check this out, because it's showing you that they know how to keep track of the real Indians. They just not they're not telling us. Check this out. It says aim to help the government keep track of real Indians while accelerating efforts to assimilate Indian people into white culture, Smithers said. Man, I can read on, man, but y'all can go check this out at y'all discretion. This article was written in 2018 in the IndianCountryToday.com. Y'all can go check that out, man. It was by Alyssa Laundrie. You know, y'all can go check that out yourself. You know, and there's so much more information, but she gets into some real statistical stuff here, you know, that I really want y'all to read. And she even shows this book, one of the sources she got from. And I actually took you know, a picture of a few of these pages, and I read through them. You know, I didn't read the whole thing, but I read some critical information. I really want the whole book now. But y'all can go check that out when y'all get the chance. But where were we at? I don't want to digress. I want to show y'all another video. Okay. I'm gonna show y'all this, because this is a issue that we have, that I'm not gonna watch this. Y'all can go watch this whole video yourself. But they talk about it, and these are a bunch of Hispanics, right? And you're gonna see a lot of them. They range from darker to lighter.
Hello,
but having a conversation about it.
To one of the great opportunities that we're able to do with the School District of Philadelphia, and that is our Black History Month series and programming. Tonight, you're joining us for Latino identity and anti-Blackness in the American context. And just to preface our conversation before we begin, we definitely believe the School District of Philadelphia in anti-racist pedagogy. It's one of the guardrails that guides the work that we're doing. And in that vein, we also wanted to really have difficult conversations and lean into these conversations that many folks aren't having, but are talked about in whispers. And we want to bring those conversations to the forefront and really talk about, what does it mean? How do we make sense out of this, right? And so since it's Black History Month, and a kind of a topic that is broached upon, yet not talked about too often, is the idea of Latinos, right? What is the relationship to Latinos when we even talk about Black History Month, right? What does it mean when folks call themselves Afro-Latinos? How do they make sense out of that from the larger picture? So I just wanted to say thank you for everybody coming out, and I definitely want to encourage you as we go on. If you have questions, throw them in the chat box for the folks who are in the room. And the folks that are watching, don't be afraid to comment on the Facebook Live account and share it with folks. Definitely be honest with your opinions when you're asking these questions or having your comments. Of course, keep it PG-13 if you want to go to the line. But we're really trying to engage folks in such a neglected conversation. So my name is Ishmael Jimenez. I am a social studies curriculum specialist for the School District of Philadelphia. This was kind of like a brainchild of mine from conversations that I've had with my students when I taught at Kensington Kappa, but also a larger thing in American society about race and identity in such a dichotomous reality. So first thing first, I definitely want to introduce you to our panelists. So first, I'm going to pass it off to Ms. Sarah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Sanlate. I am an Afro-Latina. I'm from the Dominican Republic, and I've lived in the United States for over 30 years. And it's a pleasure to be here to discuss race, identity, especially within our Latino communities.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah. And I wanted to also invite someone, because when we talk about Latino identity, it's usually associated with the idea of whiteness, right? And we wanted to dislodge that conversation and then associate it with what is Latino identity in association with Blackness, especially that's Black History Month. So I wanted to invite a colleague of mine who teaches the required African American history course at Edison High School, which serves a majority Latino population, to kind of bring it from that angle in relationship to how students relate to it. So, Brother Ike, if you want to introduce yourself.
My name is Isaac Dunn. I'm a history teacher at Edison High School. I teach 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. A lot of this really has to do with, less about the Philadelphia School District and more to do with the population that was directly in front of me. And I say that because when people think 1619, and I know me and Ishmael have had these conversations regarding the 1619 project, 1619, it's very likely that historians will perseverate that, especially transnational historians of American history. But when people say African American, I always have the habit, or tend to take the habit of, well, what African Americans are you talking about? Are you talking about the ones in Salvador Bahia? Are you talking about the ones in the Dominican Republic? Are you talking about the ones in Haiti, Costa Rica, Venezuela, the Palenque outside of Cartagena, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Cuba, or in the mainland, or in Nova Scotia? What African Americans? Okay, African Americans, the United States, okay. But when I saw such a vast number of Latinos in front of me, it really made me reevaluate the process of how I was going to teach this course. And I realized I had to teach the course Africana Studies within the conjunction of the Latino experience or experiences. Of them, you mentioned Africa.
I'm gonna stop it right there because you notice because he keep using this term African American or Africana. That's not a thing. If anybody has knowledge of where the word African comes from, it comes from a Roman general named Leo Scipio Africanus, who conquered the land of Carthage in the 2nd century BC, in the 3rd century BC, excuse me. He fought against Hannibal of Carthage, a so-called Phoenician, when really he was a Hebrew man, who they battled and they won. They took that part of the land, and over time, when the Europeans conquered, they named that whole continent, every single country on that continent together. They named that whole landmass, they named it Africa after Leo Scipio Africanus. So there's no African American, those are two white men, Americo Vespucci. So what he means is he's talking about the so-called Negroes or the so-called Black people that were taken from those. And I say so-called because we're ignorantly called those. Really, they're just Hebrews. So every time he says Afro-Latino or Afro-American, we should equate that to the Hebrews, the Israelites. Not all people of color or all Black races, but particularly the Hebrews that were taken from Africa. That's what he talks about when he's saying African. and those Latinas, the Latinos that are in those land, we can equate those as being the same exact people. And that's what he's pretty much about to go into, how they're practically the same.
They know of blackness and notions of blackness, but as far as where their contributions lie within Africana studies, it's just something that's not mentioned. It's not spoken about, or in history, it's what we call a silence. So you teach American history, but Puerto Rico and Hispaniola is never really mentioned in the historiography of the United States since the inception of the American colonies to really what it is today. So if you take the island, the archipelago of Puerto Rico, for example, it served a major role in every form of American historiography, in every major theater. But it's interesting that it's never mentioned in any of the books in the K-12 system, whether it's the 7 Years' War, whether it's the Independence War, whether it's World War I or II, or even, the Africans that died, the Afro-Latinos that died in the American Civil War.
And that's an importance why they're not teaching that, because they don't want us all to identify. The thing is divide and conquer, right? And not teach nobody, don't teach the slaves anything about themselves. Don't teach nobody anything about the slaves, because we'll start connecting dots. And when you think about it, why aren't these other places considered American? They ran by America, all the different Europeans that established North and South America, they they don't identify as American. Even South America, a lot of them are so-called Afro Latinas or African Americans, and all of them down there, they don't identify as American. They look at us up here as the Americans, even though their whole country, the whole continent down there is called South America. When you look at Central America, Guatemala, Panama, Venezuela, all of these different places, they don't consider themselves American, even though it's called Central America. Puerto Rico is a colony of America. So is Cuba, Santo Domingo, or what we call Dominican Republic. All of those is American owned, American established. So why don't we consider them Afro-American or African American? Sometimes we might call it Latin American, but most of them they drop the America and just stick to Latino. A lot of them don't even use the term Latino American. No, you'll never hear nobody refer to. And then, like we just saw in that video, they're confused about it. But the thing is, there is no such thing as African American, Afro American. We are the Hebrews. We are the Israelites. So everybody that's going to watch this and tune in, I want y'all to always understand that we have our true nationality has been hijacked. And now that's why we call ourselves these bywords. Nobody's African American, no matter if you came from the continent of Africa or you came from over here in the Americas. None of us are African American, Native American, Latin American. These are all bywords to keep us divided from each other, to understand that we are the same exact people. Let's get back to it.
Never mentioned. So as a result, these individuals are kind of historically placid and non-existent as it relates to American historiography in the K-12 system. So I wanted to do something different with that and kind of chime in what those Afro-Latina ideas are, because we could have a bad habit of even looking over it because of the language barrier. But the reality is, before there's a 1492, there were more Africans that went to Hispaniola, more Africans that went to Puerto Rico than the American 13 colonies combined. And I'm not even talking about, what makes up Spanish Florida and the Santa Teresa de Mos. So these are histories that I think are worthy to re-explore, re-examine, and really to, place the contributions of Afro-Latinos back in the narrative of, the historiography of the Western Hemisphere.
Thank you. And as folks can tell already from the initial conversation, the introductions, we're moving into a place in the conversation that not only has the academic and historical context, but also the personal experiences that people are experiencing within this society. So first, I just want to start off a question, and Sarah, I'm going to throw this at you first. And this question actually goes kind of like to the heart of the larger thing. So, you know, when we say Latino identity, right, what does that mean to you in relation to anti-Blackness? So
now listen good, because this is the main part I want to get
I'm
to.
Latino, but I'm not this. And how do you relate to that when it's related to anti-Blackness?
One of the things that I have learned, especially culturally for me being Dominican, is that it's very difficult to accept that you're part of a race. Let's say that you are African, that you have any African within your culture, because we don't have that within our countries. That doesn't exist.
Now, what I want y'all to really understand, because she's going to do it too. Our people are confused. She said African, blackness. That's what I want us to focus on. Just blackness as because that's what they mean by African. That's what most people mean when they talking about African. They just mean black people. That's what they're meaning.
So it's not that it's being anti-black, but it's more like rejecting.
See, she just confirmed my point. Anti-black. She went from African to anti-black. So you see how the association of the word African and the word black is there? It's not really have nothing to do with actually African, but really just blackness itself.
You can see me. Of course, you know that I have African within me because I am black. But when you present that to a Latino, it is very is rejected because it's not part of how you've grown. It's not something that's in your history book. It's not something that's exalted. It's not something that is acknowledged or even taught. So when you present it to someone, there's always rejection. There's rejection in all sorts of ways. They'll be like, oh no, I'm not that. Where did you get that from? I'm like, and where does your color come from? So even those kind of discussions are very difficult in certain communities because it's not accepted. And even if I present it, I'm rejected just because I'm presenting something that is different. So educating our community and teaching them the relationship between Africa, between our countries, how so many different conquests that went throughout history has influenced how we look, how we eat, and the things that we do. Our music it's been a challenge. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to teach your family, to teach your friends, to teach your country that you are different because we are different because we are part African, and it's not accepted. So that's one of the biggest challenges that I have seen, in which there's that rejection to being black and not embracing it and accepting it and seeing how beautiful and how much it has influenced all of us and how it connects all of us together.
Thank you. And
you see that? She said it's one of the biggest challenges. She said it's one of the biggest challenges that she witnesses in the Dominican Republic where she's from, right? And that's just one particular part of the Hispanic society, so-called Hispanic society, that that a lot of people are not really understanding. Now, this video right here, I'm going to show, because this is Fat Joe, and we know, I believe Fat Joe is Puerto Rican, and you know how I love my Ephraimite brothers, you know. So he's going to explain some things. He's going to explain some things to how he gets rejection on both sides, from the blacks and the so-called blacks and the so-called Latinos, and this is utter confusion. By millions of
as far as Latinos and hip hop, when I came in, I tell everybody I was the first Eminem. I grew up in the Bronx, and junior high, I would battle 20 black dudes, and it'd be me, a little blonde kid, green-eyed kid, thinking he tough, talking wild shit at the battle, just battling everybody. And you know, we was in the streets hard. You know, I was like one of the most respected, feared gangster niggas in the streets. I knew that Latinos had a little bit more to say than Rico Suave or Mellow Mayonnaise. God bless them. But I know there was niggas out there getting money like me who wanted to hear that real nigga shit, even though we Latinos. So I kind of knew, like, when I came out, I was like, yo, I knew it was going to be like this energy to where niggas could relate. And in the future as well, like, bringing somebody like Big Pun in the game, it gave Latinos so much a sense of pride. And it's hard because people don't see it like that, because in a weird way, we were too black for pure Latino. Like, there's some pure Latinos that if you ain't rapping in Spanish or they ain't fucking with you, right? We too black for them, and then we was too Latinos for some black people in, like, let's just say Mississippi or some shit. We was like mutts in the game. And we knew that, so we just played our position and said, yo, you know what? We making music for everybody. We making great music, and we gonna represent the Latinos, but make sure we put out a phenomenal body of work and just make it credible and make it dope, that if anybody who was rapping, this would be hot shit.
So yeah, you see that, I mean, dealing with our people, man, you on both sides, whether it's with the, the darker and more English speaking American blacks, or when it's with the Latino Spanish speaking blacks or mulattoes. This is what we dealing with. And I'm using the term black and mulattoes is the same thing, but they just like when we have children in the so-called African American, those children might look just like Fat Joe, but they still call themselves black as if it's a race or a culture. When you're dealing with Latinos, they just exclude the word black, and they don't really take they don't really give into that as a label wise, right? So that's one of the things that a lot of our people gotta understand on how things operate. Now I'm at to show another video, right? And they pretty much gonna cover a few different things. This video I saw a few years ago. It's pretty old.
What do you think a Latina looks like? Many people see someone like her.
I wanna show this.
Even her. That's just one of the reasons why so many Black and Indigenous millennials of Latin American descent are moving away from the term and canceling Latinidad.
I don't agree with the term millennium. That's stupid.
Of Latinidad. Latinos are having a moment, but while Latinidad is all over mainstream media, more and more people are calling out the blatant whiteness of it all. Latinidad is a term used to acknowledge and link the collective experiences and cultures of people from Latin America.
And I want to say this before I finish this video, because we got to understand what Latino, where the root of that word even comes from. It comes from Latin. The original Latin people were the Romans, a Caucasian people, right? So when it comes about blackness, right? Our people associate blackness with people from a cultural, ethnic background of dark pigment, of having dark pigment, right? Or brown dark pigment for the most part. When it comes to Latino, and you understand the root and etymology of that word, it stems from the Roman. This is what the Romans called themselves. The Caucasian man, he called himself Latin. So to call yourself Latin or Latina or Latino, it's the gravitate towards that ancient Roman idealism of your culture, when really it's just a culture. It's not who you truly are. So that's why I get shunned a lot, in a black community, especially in certain countries where there are a bunch of so-called Afro Latinos, and I can't stand that word Afro Latino neither. There's no such thing as Afro. Afro is a damn hairstyle. Afro is a damn hairstyle that they pretty much comes from the term African. And Africans, like I tell you, even the word Africa comes from a Latin man named Leo Scipio Africanus. I don't want to digress, but just have to put that out there so our people can look into this information. But I'm gonna play this video.
That song was my jam. It derived from the word Latino, which was first seen in California newspapers in the 1850s. Forget what you heard. The words Latino and Hispanic are completely different. According to scholars, Hispanic links Latin Americans to Spain, its cultures and traditions, with an emphasis on the language. So folks who are actually from Spain would be considered Hispanic. But this wouldn't be the case for Brazilians, for example, because they speak Portuguese. On the other hand, the term Latinx refers to people from countries south of the United States. Latinx people share the experience of being colonized. Colonizers are not included in Latinidad. Don't scare me like that, colonizer. And while for some, the term Latinidad is associated with pride, mainly white Latinx folks, for others, it's become associated with oppression. To understand why some millennials in the US are rejecting the term, you gotta understand the history. Let's take it back a couple of centuries to what's now known as Latin America. Now, we done told y'all about the transatlantic slave trade some 50-11 times on this series, but stick with me. During the slave trade, over 10.5 million enslaved people arrived in the Americas. And slave ships made multiple stops before arriving upon these North American shores. In fact, over 90% of the enslaved were dropped off in the Caribbean and South America. And even after emancipation in the various Latin American countries, the treatment of Black people in those spaces was no better. Tanya Hernandez is the author of Multiracials and Civil Rights and a professor at Fordham Law. She's a Black Boricua who's done extensive work on racial discrimination and subordination in Latin America, so I had to track her down.
Within Latin America, we have a long history of anti-Blackness. We had many more people of African ancestry. And so that history of enforced slavery has a very long legacy within Latin America. And it's said that outside of Nigeria and Brazil is thought to be a location with the highest percentage of people of African descent. Given that density of people of African ancestry coexisting at the same time with their lack of social mobility, what you instead see is a social hierarchy that is a racial caste system. And Latin Americans would say, oh, well, it's a class issue. But when a class issue is so completely coalescing with a pigmentocracy, then it's hard to say it's only about class. And when I refer to this term of pigmentocracy, what I'm referring to are the ways in which there is a social hierarchy that is arrayed from light to dark.
And that's what I want to pause right there, because even when Marcus Garvey had to deal with that, with the mulattoes of our people, a lot of our people don't understand that there's not only white supremacy in America, but there was also what we call light-skin privilege. Light-skin privilege, meaning the mulattoes had privileges that a lot of those darker counterparts in the Hispanic and so-called African-American community didn't share. The darker you were, the more shunned and mistreated and foully you were treated. A lot of the mulattoes with more fairer skin, a lot of those had privileges, even in white society that those of darker hue didn't share. So a lot of the times that would cause even more confliction between the darker counterparts with those lighter counterparts, because they like, the lighter, y'all getting treated with certain privileges based off of having lighter skin. So that causes some hatred there and some tension there, and also some envy. And that's why over time you see more Hispanic and even now you see more so-called African American. They want to either have a child by a lighter person or whiter person, so that their child doesn't have to go through the same foul treatments, or will have at least a degree of better treatment, in a lot of cases, than the darker skins. And we know that us who grew up with the light-skinned people in our family, we always see that, and even they see it. They light-skinned mulattoes that are in the dark skin, that have dark-skinned cousins and family members. They know the difference in treatment. They pointed out there's many videos about it, where they even just talk about it just blatantly. So we don't want to just act like there's not a degree of privilege even within just being a mulatto. And that's why there was even a specific name to characterize them. but for the most part, we want to understand, this white supremacy. One of the ways that they did that, and when you can read this also in the Willie Lynch letter, how they will put the darker against the lighter. You know what I'm saying? They will set the lighter against the darker. So we gotta understand, man. There's colorism going on in our communities, and it's causing us to destroy ourselves even more. It's causing a bigger divide. But for those people that can look past those colorism, that's a beautiful thing. But also, you got to be reminded: don't just lump all people of darker pigmentation or lighter pigmentation into being the same race and being equal to you, because you got different races of people, including the so-called Caucasian man, who the Bible calls Edomites. You got them, you know what I'm saying, to where you might go beyond color and just be starting to grab everybody in to become one, and we all just become one melting pot, which is his whole agenda. You don't want to do that. You want to really try to decipher the roots of our people, identify them by the spirit if they actually are people, and really understand who we are, rather than just trying to lump everybody into just off the content of their character. It's not all about the content of your character. It's actually is about the spirit bear witness with as far as being the same people, and also it is about the different curses in Deuteronomy chapter 28 that I brought out. I brought out verse 15 and verse 37, but there's so many more curses, and our people have to fall in those under those things. You can't just put all people in Africa and India and Asia together just because they have dark or light skin, and separate them and say, well, there's a dark race and a light race. That's not how things work. There's many races, and a lot of them consist of darker and lighter peoples within that race. So just saying that so our people can understand, the Bible doesn't just he called Ephraim a cake unturned, meaning darker and lighter. So we don't want to misconfuse them that are our people that might be darker or lighter with other races that have darker and lighter peoples. Because there's Hindus, they have a lot of darker and lighter people in their race. The Arabs have them, the Hamites, them. The Sand people of Africa, they're Hamites, but they have lighter skin. A lot of them have lighter brown skin, and they have facial features of Asian people, but they're not our race of people. There's different bloodlines and breeds. There are different phenotypes and things, and our people can mix with them. But when that baby comes out, it's whatever the father is. Just remember that. It's like when you plant a apple seed or orange seed or watermelon seed. The seed is always the tree and the fruit of what that plant, wherever you planted it. It don't matter if you plant a watermelon in Brazil, China, it might grow and come out a little different because the soil you planted in, but it's still the fruit of that seed is still the fruit that it came from. You can't mix a fruit just because you planted in different soil. So, depending on what race you are, you can plant your seed wherever. That child is what you are. So I could plant a seed in a Asian woman, a white woman, a Arab woman, a Hindu woman. Is going to be a Hebrew, or what we call so-called Negro, but it would be a Hebrew. Just like if a white man plant his seed in a so-called Hebrew woman or a Chinese woman or Arab woman, that's a white. Now that child is a white man or a white woman. It's whatever the father is. And I don't want to say white because that's not what they are. They're Edomites, you're Caucasians, Romans, the original Latins, the true Latins. So let's get back to it. I'm going to finish this video off, and then I got one more. And we're going to mess around and close it out.
With the most economic success, the most greatest access to socioeconomic opportunity, and darker spheres with less. And the only sort of additional nuance in that is that you could have light skin, but if you have African features or African hair texture, then that lowers your currency.
Given this obsession with whiteness, it's no surprise that throughout Latin America, there were government-led efforts to make countries majority white. In Brazil, it was called branqueamento. And in many parts of Latin America, blanqueamiento. The term literally means whitening.
But what is fascinating to note is that after the emancipation of slavery, what you instead see is a turn to the use of immigration law to diminish the access and the mobility of recently emancipated slaves. Like in Argentina and in Brazil in particular, where they had the funding for this, they sort of opened the doors to European immigration. In Argentina, the population doubles after the emancipation of slavery because of the open door policy for European immigration.
Beyond bringing Europeans into Latin American countries to literally lighten the race, Hernandez also said that there were restrictions on the lives of people of African ancestry, like the types of jobs Black people could work, the Afro-spiritual religions that they practiced, and even the quality of their education. So, Latin America, y'all think that you're not guilty of institutionalized racism led by sometimes, but the whiteness, though more subtle, still exists even in the United States. What do you think? Generations of racist conditioning are just gonna magically disappear? Like when you walk into a Dominican hair salon and have stylists refer to your hair as pelo malo, which translates to bad hair. I mean, this is what Latinidad looks like according to mainstream media. With BS like this, no wonder Black and Indigenous millennials of Latin American descent are calling for Latinidad to be canceled. Hashtag Latinidad is canceled is a social media movement all about reclaiming identity. Afro-Indigenous poet and cultural worker Alan Lopez helped popularize the cancel party. And many prominent voices like journalist and founder of the blog Aina Latina, Janelle Martinez, are also moving away from Latinidad. How do you choose to identify yourself?
I personally choose to identify as a Black woman first and foremost. I also, given my family lineage being Garifuna, I will use that as well. I do go by Afro-Latina, but in recent years, my sentiments have sort of shifted a bit from using the term because I feel it's important to center my Blackness. This thought comes from a recent piece I wrote, Ora Mezcla, when discussing Latinidad, who is included in it.
Yes, we saw that piece, honey.
So the thing about Latinidad, right, as noted in the piece, is it definitely serves a very narrow audience. It doesn't necessarily ID us around nationalities, our racial and gender identities, our status. And for me, Latinidad ultimately serves white, cisgendered, straight, wealthy men, right? And I have none of those. I'm at the margins of this term.
What gaps exist within Latinidad?
Talking about 33
I hate that term,
Latin American
cisgender.
and Caribbean nations.
They're talking about straight men.
Doesn't get included in the conversation. And being Garifuna even, right? Like my culture's native tongue is not even Spanish. It's Garifuna. Oftentimes when people speak to this sort of, again, monolithic, unified term to encapsulate all these identities, there's a lot of holes in that.
Can you speak to some specific ways that we've seen this anti-Blackness in pop culture?
I think Spanish language media has very blatant issues. You can still, on occasion, see blackface. People in Espanol, they always come out with their 50 most beautiful people issue. This year they had Yalitza Aparicio, who is the amazing indigenous. Last year they had Amara La Negra. In past years, of course, they had like Zoe Saldana, amongst others. But to also send out that intentional message that there can only be one at a time, or when we do feature someone, primarily a Black or Indigenous woman, we're going to lighten her. We're going to place her in frumpy attire while everyone else is dressed very appealing. Really sends a strong message not only to the consumers of the magazine, but this next generation.
And the message is that you're an afterthought, if even considered at all. With all the baggage that comes with the term, Latinidad, girl, you in danger. Hernandez says the issue is that Latinidad tries to create a uniformity, but
okay, so y'all can go back and watch that whole video. They go more into some other things. Well, practically almost coming to an end, but I got just two more quick videos because I want to close it out. I gotta get ready for my elders lesson. So we're gonna oh, and I see sis. Hey, Shalom, sis. Sister Zabaya on this thing. So we got just a couple more videos right here that I want to show. And this one right here.
Are Hispanic people white?
Are Hispanic people white?
That depends on who you're talking to. There's a very confusing statistic about the percentage of white people in America, thanks to a clause in the US Census that refers to white non-Hispanic. Now, if you're white with European ancestry, Asian with Asian ancestry, or Black with African ancestry, this may not be something you've ever even thought about. Let's look at the 2010 census. If you check the box that simply says white, this registers you as white non-Hispanic, which makes up 62% of the population. But together, white Hispanics and Latinos are 77% of the population. Now, if that seems like a quick way to boost the number of white people living in this country, that's because it kind of is. And if that also seems really confusing, that's because it is. So if you ever hear anyone say, "This is America," and 77% of it is white, whether they know it or not, they are in fact including a very large number of people who identify as Hispanic or Latino. If you look at the 2010 census application again, the difficulty is that Hispanic is not considered a race. The census asks you to choose your Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin, then choose your race between the 6 categories offered. Not only is this a hell of a shock when you consider that over 55 million US citizens are Hispanic, but I guess the some other race category is supposed to be a passive-aggressive catch-all for their beautifully diverse culture. And even that option doesn't really work. According to the US Census Bureau, most people who mark some other race are often counted as white. So if Hispanic isn't a race, then what is it? Well, before we get to that, we actually have to settle another important thing. What's the difference between Hispanic and Latino? So I'm going to enlist some help from my friend, Kat Lasso.
Thanks for having me, Francesca. So it may get a little confusing if this is your first time hearing this, so I'll try to keep it as simple as I can. Hispanic refers to people of Spanish-speaking origin. It means you have a family history in a Spanish-speaking country. This means you have origins in these countries, including Spain. But notice how Brazil isn't included in the map? Well, that's because they don't primarily speak Spanish. They speak Portuguese, which brings us to Latino, or Latinx if you want to.
And I want to say Latino because it's funny. English, Portuguese, and Spanish, Dutch, French, they all derive from the Latin language, the original Latin language of Rome. I bet I want to say that again. They all derive from the Latin language, the Latin alphabet, the Latin language. Both English is also a Latin language. We use the Latin alphabet. You can look this up. We use the Latin alphabet, the English alphabet derived from the Latin alphabet. So did all these other languages from Portuguese to Hispanic. So when they say Latin, but technically the language of England derived from Latin as well. The hell is Latin? Latin is not a thing.
Gender inclusive, which you should be.
Or it's not for us.
Refers to having origins in Latin America, which is basically the countries in North and South America that are geographically south of the United States, including most of the Caribbean. And unlike Hispanic, Latinx excludes much of Latin America's colonizer, Spain. So, one more time, Hispanic refers to language, and Latinx focuses on geographic location. But whichever term you use, neither of them actually refer to racial identity. Just like America, Latin America has a long and complex history that intersects between Native people, European colonization, African slavery, and global immigration patterns, which is why there are white Latinos, Native Latinos, Black Latinos, Asian Latinos, and every kind of mixture that you can think of. Does that help?
Yeah, that does help. But I think part of the problem.
And you see that? Just like there's Latin in America, here in North America, you got Latin American and Native Americans, you got Black Americans and white Americans and Asian Americans, just like in the Latin community, also an American community. It's the same thing. Same people that come over there. What is an Arab when he grows up 4 generations in Mexico? Wouldn't he be considered a Latin Arab? You don't hear about those much, but they're there.
Is the broader confusion between ethnicity and race. As we've covered, race is not biologically real. It's basically an ever-shifting categorization.
Okay, so that was all I wanted from that video, you know, just to get more understanding. Now I'm gonna get one more video before I close it out. You know, give me a second, bear with me. Okay, and this is a short video, but I just want y'all to see how racism is affecting these brothers and sisters in Mexico.
Yo solía pintarme con cal para decirle a mi mamá que quería estar blanca y de hecho también siempre había querido ser blanca, pero actualmente pues me di cuenta que la piel morena es bonita y sobre todo que sí, hay personas que se venden incluso con su color. Como los españoles esclavizaron a nuestro país, pensaron que los negros deberíamos seguir siendo esclavos, que los negros somos feos, que los negros somos malos, que los negros, etcétera, un montón de discriminación.
Now this is in Mexico, right? This is in Mexico. Now I'm gonna read this because I see the words they're coming up from right to left, but it's only a minute and a half. I'm gonna actually read this. Okay, I'm gonna start it over and read it. I just want y'all to see what she's saying. It says when. Now I'm gonna try to turn the volume down so I can read what she's actually saying, so we can get the context of what's going on here. It says, when I was little, hold on. It says, when I was little, I used to paint myself with lime powder to show my mom that I wanted to be white. I always wanted to be white until I realized that brown skin is beautiful and that people are pretty in their own color. These Afro-Mexicans are fighting to save their identity. Since the Spanish enslaved our country, they think that Black people should keep being slaves and that the Black people are ugly and bad. So there's a lot of discrimination. Afro-Mexicans are not counted in the National Census Bureau until 2015. The government still doesn't recognize them as an official minority. It was as a cultural or ethnic group don't exist. It's obvious that the government wouldn't be responsible for dedicating budget to the needs, and that is what we all need. The annual festival is a way to preserve our culture. Think it's really good that they are fostering this among young people, because unfortunately we have been losing our traditions. And we don't know where it came from. What's really missing here is more education about Afro culture. There should be more knowledge about the different types of cultures we have. And you see this, they understand by that they are from that country. It says since they were enslaved in in that country. So I'm gonna get one more video now. I want to get one more video now. to show you what's going on here in Mexico. Because this is the side of Mexico they won't show you. And a lot of these people are indigenous. They're not just people brought over on slave ships like they try to make it seem like, like black people were just like black people were just brought there. Like there wasn't like we just that's why I showed it at the beginning of the video how they depicted themselves. Where did those people come from? Where did all those dark people come from? Those so-called black and brown people. Where did all of them come from? If only the slaves make up the so-called black population, right? Okay, let me get it. Okay, give me a second. Hold on, let me get it. Boom, shaka, laka. I'm gonna probably have to do a part 2 to this because it's a lot more to cover, and not just in the Hispanic community, but on the other side of the world when it comes to this dark versus light thing and the Willie lynching of our people worldwide. Okay. Now check this out.
And I want to use them to kind of like shed light on heritage. So he called for land.
Now this video just going to show a lot of imagery, and I'm gonna explain it, right? So this video is showing how the American, check this out. This is showing how the American, you see, one is the so-called African the Israelite, and the other one is the American Israelite. And you see how they were depicted? One was called Indian, one was called African, when really those are the same people. Just one was indigenous to the Americas, and the other ones is how they depict our people that was still in West Africa. See that? Now, this is another depiction. The Mayans and Aztecs. It says they were all black. And when you read that book has a lot more pictures than I was able to show you. They were all what we call so-called black. They were black, but it's just a depiction on how they looked before European colonization, right? It said the following photos were taken from the Library of Congress, showing the Aztec couple who were taken captive by the Queen of England's mother and brought to Britain. She used them as circus acts for 13 hours a day and charged a penny to get in. Charged only a penny to see these. Now you see those? Those are Aztecians, full-blooded Aztecians. Look at that here. Look at that. Look at that. This is a book called The Aztecas, and it shows the lineage. It shows how the Europeans look at the Europeans drew these. This is what they saw. Now it says, you'll notice that standing behind the Aztec woman is a Mayan figure. This is because the Aztec and the Mayan were the same people. Their names were given to them by Europeans. They did not call themselves Mayans or Aztecs. And I want that to be known too. Our people didn't call themselves Mayans and Aztec. That is a European construct. You would not find anywhere in ancient drawings or ancient literature of the Aztec and them calling themselves that. But you see this? More imagery. This is of the Mayans. We showed a lot of Aztec earlier. Now we show Mayans, Central American Indians. So-called Indians, because they're not Indians, they're not Mayans. You see that? That's a cross. That showed you that the cross came way before the Europeans even got here, but it's still an idolatrous symbol. Look, I showed that one earlier of the Mayans. Remember? I showed these Mayans and how they had locks. More Mayans. You see, that one got a mask on. See this? Look, remember I showed you how they were destroying their own people? These Aztecs, I showed a whole different picture of the Aztec. This is what they were doing to the Mayans. Because a lot of our people don't know the Aztecs was whooping the Mayans' ass majority of the time in history. Issachar was whooping Zebulon. That's why it's a lot of making amends within all of our tribes, because we didn't did each other so dirty. And you going back into some of the images that I already showed. Look at this. Look at this. Now I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read this and show y'all what this picture is all about. See all these brown colored natives? I'm gonna read that. It says a panel from a painting in the Larco Museum in Lima, Peru. This is the Incas. This is how the Incans look. This is how the native Incans looked. See how they depicted themselves? It says depicted depicting the Inca emperors. All of these men are emperors. Every single last one of these are the Incan emperors. You don't even see any of them looking mulatto. They're not even mulatto. You see how dark they are? It says, look, the panel shows the last 7 Incan emperors. I'm on the count to make sure there's 7. There's 8 there. So let's see. It says, this panel shows the last 7 Incan emperors and the subsequent first European emperor of the Inca, Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, as the 15th Inca emperor. So it's pretty much letting you know this last one, whose name is Carlos, it's spelled Carlos, but they called him Charles in English. And you see what he looked like? Check this out. It says, the painting can be dated to circa 1800 because the last 2 entries of Carlos Tercera, Charles III, as the 24th Inca emperor, and his son Carlos IV, Charles IV, House of Bourbon, as the 25th Inca emperor. Charles IV reigned as the King of Spain during December 4th, 1788 to March 19th. No, let me see. It says to, oh snap. Till Charles XIV reigned as King of Spain from December 14th to 1788 and to March 1808, abdicated in favor of his son Ferdinand VII. So you don't see those pictures of them on here. You only see Carlos IV. You know, you don't see Carlos V or the 6th, who they call the Inca emperor. You don't see them on there. And if you read that, you can read it yourself. I'm going to keep it on there. Oh, man, the words are backwards. But I want y'all to see that. That means they didn't even paint the other emperors on there, the ones that ruled Spain. They only showing the ones who were ruler over the Inca Empire in this. I wish they would have showed the ones that ruled over Spain to see if they because you know if they would have showed that, it would have gave us a good image of how they look too. Who knows? They might have been mixed. They might have been European. We don't know. It doesn't show them. But I want to read. I want to show. This is a book. hold on. This is the book called. I mean, this is a book called a. Oh no, I don't know if this is a book, but this is an image of a Moor with two crowns. Today worn by the Pope. Today worn by the Queen of England. So it's pretty much letting you know our people ruled over Europe as well. We ruled over Spain and England, like I was just telling you about King James, the last king of Scotland. King James actually was the king of all of Great Britain. He ruled over all the provinces, from Spain to France, Portugal. King James ruled over all those things. Look it up. King James the Sixth. So you see this? This ain't King James. This is a man called Freycinet, a Moor with two crowns. You see he wearing that same hat that the Pope be wearing? Look at him. No. You get the Moors. Look, this is a book. Oh, yeah, this is the book I was thinking about right here. Now it's going to tell you what book you can get this out of. It's going to tell you what book you can get this out of now. Now check this out. It says the Moors ruled Europe, the Holy Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, and South America. Entrance to Palazzo Pucci, which is a historic building in Florence, Italy. You see that? It has a Moor at the top of it with the band on it. You know, our people used to wear a lot of bands. Even in the scripture said we wore headbands. So you see that Moor right there at the top? And now let's read what it say at the bottom. It says entrance to Palazzo Pucci, which is a historic building in Florence, Italy, because our people ruled Italy during the Roman Holy Empire all the way up until the 1400s. It occupies almost a block between Ricorso and the servants, and organized in, what does it say? In three corresponding to as many courtyards. So there was many courtyards that had these same images there, built by Cardinal Roberto Pucci, meaning somebody that was related to him, and Lorenzo Pucci, another person that was related to him. They have the same last name in 1530. You see that? So that means we were still ruling stuff in 1430, or at least they had this still up, even though they say they banned all of the Moors from certain countries. I'm gonna get into that in the next lesson, but understand that our people was ruling in Europe as well. And that's why when you understand the history of Europe, there was a time where they started expelling us out of there. So there was only a small remnant left. But guess what? The small remnants that were left in those places that they couldn't get rid of, how you think they multiplied? They had to mix, a lot of them mixed it with European women. So there's a lot of light-skinned and mulatto and lighter, even lighter people of our people in Europe still too. Are they the Caucasians? No. Have they mixed with the Caucasians? Yes. Pre-Incan, Egyptian. So now it's showing you how they still carry traces of their history, of their building and their images. It looks like they did in ancient Egypt, because we built Egypt. The Native Americans built Egypt. Our people built Egypt, and we built the Americas using the same numerical constructs to do it. Look, these are the things that they found in the pre-Incan Empire. How similar some of this stuff be. So, yeah, we want to. I just wanted to show that just to validate, you know, my point. Now, I want everybody, when y'all get a chance.
And I'm Cliff.
And we've been members of Lifestyles and
I want everybody to get out, when y'all get a chance, to check out this video too. Because this is a part of Mexico they don't want y'all to see. But this is a good video right here. And they go over a bunch of stuff. But it's called Black Mexicans. The Mexico they don't want you to see. because they don't want you to understand how Ephraim is a cake unturned. Issachar as well, and all the other tribes. You're gonna have some of them lighter, some of them darker, but the most part they are the exact same people. Look at this. I'm about to just conclude this. I want y'all to go check this out yourself, but I'm gonna just show the first part of it.
Lock the doors, because what I'm about to say is going to upset some people right next here. Okay. Christopher Columbus did not discover America.
People of African descent go back hundreds of years in Mexico, but as a group, Afro-Mexicans are largely invisible.
Ay, tú eres cubana, ¿no? Porque también ahí dices, otra madre, el clásico cliché.
During the Civil War era, Black Union soldiers in Louisiana developed a relationship with Mexicans and Mexican Americans.
After the Civil War, St. Mary's history professor Teresa Van Hoy says Black Union soldiers helped to liberate Mexico from French control.
After the war, they snuck across to Mexico to help Mexicans and Mexican Americans overthrow the French.
Why did they help? Because our people were there. Their brothers were there. That's why they helped. Just like they helped a lot of Native Americans, you know, with the Seminole Indians. We came together. The same people, same fighting cause.
Es cubano, brasileña, colombiano, venezolana, de algún otro lado menos mexicano.
In his diary of his second voyage, given him gold-tipped metal spearheads that they said were brought by black-skinned people who had come in large boats from the south and southeast. These spearheads were covered in this metal that this alloy that the inhabitants called guanin, which matched the metal used in spearheads made in Western Africa for thousands of years, as carried by medieval African warriors, including the Mali and the Moors. The West Africans.
You hear what he said? He's saying that the natives, he's telling you, this white man, now this is Massa speaking. Since a lot of people don't like to hear it a lot of people don't like to hear from their brothers. But what about Massa? Because you know, a lot of us, a lot of our people, a lot of you blacks and so-called blacks and Hispanics, a lot of you so-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, you hate when your brothers are teaching you and telling you these things. But when Massa said, when you hear it out of the devil's mouth, you're all ears. You start to wake up. Something inside of you wakes up and like, oh, Massa. You stand at attention what Massa said. He literally just told you that Christopher Columbus described these natives as black men who came over with the same type of spearheads that they had experienced from people in Mali that were the so-called Moors in Mali. So he's letting you know that these Native Americans had the same type of weapons, the same type of things that the West Africans had. What it's telling you, the so-called West Africans and the so-called Native Americans had identical weapons. Why? Because they're the same people.
All this metal.
Let Master say it one more time.
Same name used by the natives. Black and Indian allies must have been or obeyed or.
Hold on, let Master.
But they clearly feature three races.
Let Master say it again.
Which match the metal used in spearheads made in Western Africa.
Hold on, that ain't far enough. I want to get the whole thing.
People of African descent go back hundreds
I'm gonna just play it from right there.
As a group, Afro-Mexicans are largely invisible.
Ay, tú eres cubana, ¿no? Porque también ahí dices, otra
And pay attention when Esau pop up. Pay attention when this so-called white man pop up.
Mexicans and Mexican Americans.
After the Civil War, St. Mary's history professor Teresa Van Hoy says Black Union soldiers helped to liberate Mexico from French control.
After the war, they snuck across to Mexico to help Mexicans and Mexican Americans.
They snuck over there. They did.
Cubano, brasileña, o colombiano, venezolana, de algún otro lado menos mexicano.
In his diary of his second voyage, Columbus tells of how the natives of Hispaniola actually had given him gold-tipped metal spearheads that they said were brought by black-skinned people who had come in large boats from the south and southeast. These spearheads were covered in this metal this alloy that the inhabitants called guanin, which matched the metal used in spearheads made in Western Africa.
I hope y'all hear that.
Thousands of years, as carried by medieval African warriors, including the Mali and the Moors.
The Mali and the Moors.
Even called this metal guanine.
And they called it the same thing the natives called it.
Nothing more was said about that.
That's a lie. There's all type of different stuff said about that.
Now they clearly feature, the color version is easier to see, but they clearly feature 3 races. And it's depicting black and Indian allies and a battle against white invaders. This mural shows that blacks are clearly fighting on the side of the Mayans, that they must have been integrated into that society much longer before this painting was done. There are numerous pre-Columbian figurines with striking.
You sell that, man. If this ain't real, if this don't get real for you, then I don't understand what will. It's showing you these black and brown people fighting against the same white oppressor. And come on now. Come on now. Check this out.
Similarities to ancient African artwork, and they've been found in Central and South America. In southeastern Mexico, there are 18 rock statues that of heads up to 11 feet.
Now you see the Olmecan heads. You see this Olmecan head and how this how it is similar to this same head right here, this same stone figurine head in West Africa. And notice all this stuff is coming from West Africa. It's not all throughout Africa. It's coming from specifically from the main parts of Africa where they took the Hebrews as slaves to and conquered, from Ghana and Mali and the places where the so-called Moors inhabited. Negro, when we pull up a map, it says Negro land.
Facing the ocean. These people that they modeled them after must have been important. Whoever they were, they must have been important to be remembered or obeyed or worshipped.
He's saying they obeyed or worshipped. It was them. They were depicting pictures of their own people. Silly rabbit. He making it seem like they were depicting some picture of some strange foreigners. You know, they depicting themselves. So Esau is tricky, but at least he's telling some truth. He don't know it all. We can't assume he know it all. But you know, he only can give you what he can. I don't believe he's purposely being deceptive, but he obviously doesn't have the full spiel.
Jose Megler Serrano, the archaeologist who first uncovered them, he pointed out that facial features look amazingly like African blacks.
Look, that's the Officer Dawada right there. That's my officer. I tell you, he looked like an Olmecan head when we was at the Feast of Tabernacles. Bam. That's the one before that was the one I was talking about. But that's what I'm saying, man. That Olmecan had like Asian cheeky eyes. Some man. This is how our people look, man. I can't wait for the next lesson on this. But I'm almost done with this. I'm about to play a little bit more of this, about 5-6 more minutes of this, and then we're gonna close it out. But yeah, I appreciate everybody that's watching this. I hope y'all really paying attention, because this is how we gonna bring our people together and be able to decipher who is who amongst our own people.
Or protective helmets.
Son personas afrodescendientes de todas que tienen hijos y que van dejando generaciones en esta diversidad de lo que es la afrodiáspora.
Dan Hoy says before slavery ended in America, slaves would flee to Mexico by following trails left in the sand by Mexican wagoneers who traded goods. Why would slaves cross the border? Hate surprises. Then you'll love Credit Karma.
Damn devil, come on.
Wanted to seek asylum in Mexico, and the answer is clear. This is Vicente Guerrero, a Mexican man who was born from humble beginnings. Born in Mexico, his mother was an indigenous woman, and his father was an Afro-Mexican. That's right, an African born in Mexico. Vicente was born at the lowest level of the Spaniard caste system, a system designed to hinder Afro and indigenous from seeing the highest level of social status in Mexico. However, through hard work and fighting for his country,
Vicente was able to transcend the caste system. He was no longer considered a color. He became a legend, the people's hero. The people loved him so much they made him the second president of Mexico. That's right, a Afro-descendant. While in office, he took steps to give the indigenous people rights and abolish slavery, the very system that he grew up under. This is why
Right. You see what he did? He abolished slavery because remember, the natives and were slaves first there from 1492. They started with the Taínos, and then they came to and started enslaving the Aztec under Ferdinand Cortez and all of them. But also, I want y'all to notice also the slaves that were brought from Africa were still in slavery as well. So you had two forms of slaves: the indigenous. That's why he said to free the indigenous. He had to free the indigenous. He freed his people on both sides because it told you his father was the indigenous. His mother had Afro, came from off the ships. So you see that he was able to decipher that. He was able to decipher that from those two darknesses, from those two indigenous, two different people groups who happen to actually be the same people. His mother and his father was an Israelite. One just most likely was from Judah and the other one from Issachar, the dad from Issachar. But check this out.
Lead to Mexico so they could be free. Vicente Guerrero is a true definition of a Mexican and also represents a group that I'm looking for, the Afro-Mexican community.
You see that here? Yeah, thick ass here. That's what we call pedachino. It's the pedachino.
Mexican history, do you think about the African contribution? The truth is, at one point, there were more Africans being born in Mexico than there were indigenous and Spanish. But those numbers have dwindled through generational mixed unions and migration. Because of this, many Mexicans are not aware of their African heritage. In this documentary, I want to learn more about Mexico's African history and hopefully find an Afro-Mexican descendant community. Join me as I embark on an incredible journey. Let's begin now. All right, guys, so we're at the
All right, so y'all got the chance to see that. That was it on that. But yeah, when you get the chance, go check that video out. I'm not gonna put the link in the description. I'm not even sure how to even do that type of stuff yet, but I'll figure it out. But for the most part, that just part two it is, because there's so much that comes into this colorism that's keeping our people from understanding who we truly are. So I just want our people to understand exactly who they are. Before we close out, I'm gonna read a few scriptures so that we can understand that the Bible actually, because I said I was gonna do this, I don't want to close it out before I do it. I want to show in the scripture that the Bible actually describes our people as black or so-called brown people in the scriptures. So because a lot of our people don't understand that we are written in this Bible and spoken about, and it describes us in many different ways. Even Christ was described as a black man with hair like sheep wool. So let's get the book of, I'm going to start from the book of Limitations. And the book of Limitations is especially about the Native Americans, so-called Native Americans. When you read that whole chapter, if you don't get a Native American from that or Hispanic from that, you gotta be, you don't know history. And that's why I'm here for, to teach y'all the history of it. So this is the book of Limitations. I'm gonna start from chapter 5 and verse 10. It says, matter of fact, I'm gonna start from verse 8. It says, servants ruled over us. There is none that deliver us out of their hand. See, our servants are ruling over us, so-called blacks and Hispanics, so-called blacks and the so-called Hispanics, so-called Native Americans. The so-called white man is supposed to be serving us. At one point, he would have been serving us. But since we broke God's commandments, he allowed them to rule over us. And so our servants are ruling over us, and there is none that deliver us out of their hand. Meaning they persecute us and destroy us. Nobody can deliver us out of their power until we come together and understand who we are again. And under the Most High. Only the Most High can reveal to us who we are. That's why we're reading this out of the Bible, his book that he left for us, his records. Verse 9, we got our bread with the peril of our lives, because the sword of the wilderness, meaning These men came through these wilderness in the Americas with the sword, just like they did in West Africa. Now we got our bread with the peril of our lives, man. We got to work hard just to eat and survive in this land. You know what I'm saying? We work hard for our bread. We got our bread with the peril of our lives. Meaning in anguish do we eat. You know, we can't eat at the quality of the people that are ruling over us. You know, verse 10. And I mean, as a nation, not saying that there's not people that's, you know, fall through the cracks. We're not eating like them. You know what I'm saying? The Most High made us to rule. We supposed to have bread should be easy for us to get. It should be a given. Most High made it rain bread for us. We didn't have to do nothing to get it. So this is verse 10. Our skin. Now notice he said our skin. This is what they understood, especially when they go through famine. See, when a black man starves or when a so-called brown person starves, their skin get darker. Scientifically, this has been proven, and I can show videos, and I'm going to read this again in the next lesson and show images. But when black people starve or brown people starve, they get darker. When white people starve, they get pale. Like when you look at the Holocaust and you see pictures of Hitler starving all them Jews, fake Jews, the so-called Jewish man who is not the real Jew. We are the real Jews. When you see them, they were getting paler and paler. They wasn't getting blacker. So if they're the real Jews, then they should be able to fit the description of this Bible if they're the real Hebrews. This is how you know it's talking about us so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, and so-called Native Americans. Because this is what happens when we starve or go through what we call a famine, a terrible famine. He said our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine. Our skin was black like we've been burnt up by an oven because of the terrible famine. That's what it say here in Lamentations 5 and 10. I didn't write this. Y'all go read that. And I'm gonna read verse 11. They ravished the women in Zion and the maids in the cities of Judah. So it's letting you know all the women of Zion from the northern kingdom to the kingdom of Judah. You know what I'm saying? From the Americas all the way to West Africa, they ravished our women. They raped our women. They took our women from them. Mouser can just go into the damn place where you were sleeping with your woman and just pull her in and come and sleep with him in his bed make her a bed wench for the night, and then go toss her right back to you. So check this out. This is the book of Lamentations, chapter 4, verse 8. It says their visage is their face. Visage. It's taught the same people. Their visage is blacker than coal. See, that's why when we look in when we look at some of those pictures of the Native Americans, some of them are black as hell. They like literally just jet black. Some of them ain't black. Some of them are brown, red, all the way up to tan, right? So he says, they are not known in the streets. Meaning nobody knows who we are in these streets. We think we're African American, Puerto Ricans, Native American, Hispanics, Latinos, Jamaicans, West Indians, all these different bywords the so-called white man had put on us through slavery. We're not known in the streets. He said, and their skin cleaved to their bones and is withered. It had become like a stick. Meaning we are starving and struggling people. All of us. No matter how hard the Mexicans work, they still are starving for a lot of different things, especially justice. So now let me get the book of Songs of Solomon one, so we can understand. You know, the word black. The word black is used in the Bible, and when it's used in black, it's not talking about a mood or a feeling. It's not talking about evil, being evil or anything. It's just describing how people look. Period. So this is the book of Songs of Solomon. The book of Songs of Solomon. And this is how Solomon, one of our ancestors in the Bible, Christ's forefather, Christ came through this man's personal lineage. When you read the book of Matthew chapter 1, you'll see in Christ's genealogy, you'll see Solomon. And this is what Solomon said he looks like, right? Let's see what Solomon said about himself. Because ain't nobody gonna lie about what they look like, right? So we can't assume that Solomon is just gonna lie about, being black. And we didn't write this book, you know what I'm saying? So whoever wrote this made sure that they kept this in here to bear record. First, I'm gonna start from verse 1. It says, the songs of songs, which is Solomon's. So we know Solomon is writing his song. Verse 5, he said, I am black. He just came right out and said it. I am black. That's the color black. Matter of fact, I'm going to show that for people that think I'm lying. You see verse 5 right here? It says, I am black. Now, my pages are backwards, so you can't really see it good. But just go look at it yourself. It's in all of your Bibles, especially the King James Version, because some versions are just going to say dark. This one says, I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem. See, he directed it at the sisters. He's like, man, I'm black and beautiful. That's what comely means. Beautiful, lovely, handsome, gorgeous. So I am black and beautiful. Who says that? Type people say that today. That's what so-called Afro Americans, Afro Hispanics, Afro Native Americans. This is what we all started to say. Now, I don't like to use that term Afro. I'm just throwing that out there because that's what we kept on hearing in all them videos with these people starting to embrace their blackness, right? Because a lot of them were saying they weren't taught to do that. They hated it. You had sister talking about how she used to go to her mama telling her how she wanted to be white and was lightening her skin and all of this type. It's a self-hatred. We've been taught white supremacy and self-hatred. He says, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon, look not upon me because I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me. So he's literally let you know this is how he looked. This is not about no feeling or thoughts of evil, darkness and dirtiness. It's not about that. He's just letting you know that straight up, listen, I'm black. You know what I'm saying? A lot of our people can't just confess that. That's why you gotta be careful with dealing with people, you know what I'm saying? Because that's a form of self-hatred where you can't admit that you come from a black or a so-called dark-skinned people. You know what I'm saying? When you think that you started off blanco, when you think you started off white or pale skin or pale face, like the Native Americans call them, the real Native Americans, they call them a pale face. You know what I'm saying? We didn't come from a pale-faced people. You know what I'm saying? So we want to make sure that that's understood. You know what I'm saying? So with that, oh snap, I forgot. I gotta show one more video. Just one more. And this one's gonna be real quick, and then I promise I'm gonna be gone off of this live, but this one has to be acknowledged because this is about so-called African American Africans, Jamaicans that hate their blackness. You know what I'm saying? They hate their blackness. And they don't want to admit that they're black, especially Cape Verdeans. I can't stand our people in Cape Verde. Like they're the worst. I love my people out there. I'm just saying I can't stand how they just be so hateful of themselves. Where they'll be looking at you and they'll be darker than me, hair nappier than mine, and still say, "Oh no, I'm not black." What you mean? You mean you don't look black? Or you mean that's not your nationality? Because I know it's not your nationality, but just like Solomon was from the tribe of Judah. He was an Israelite. All those Israelites, all those tribes that was in limitations were all the Israelites at that time. And it says that they were black. It's not calling what's their race called. This is just how they describe themselves as a black people or as a dark or melanated, what we would call a melanated people. So let me get it. This is going to sum it all up right here, because it's not just going on in a Hispanic or Native American community, but it's also happening amongst our people right here in America. And I've seen so many videos on here that are disgusting. Now, okay, let's see. Now, I'm gonna just go down. Y'all can go and watch all these videos, but just type in black people that hate being black, right? I'm gonna start from this one. Go watch these videos. Type this in your YouTube. I hate being black. Look, she said, I hate being. Watch that video. This video is sickening. I watched this video. I don't even want to show y'all this one. I hate being black. Tattooed men allegedly behind bizarre kidnapping. Check this out. Black teen, look, and she really the donkey of the day, right? Black teen thinks she's white, tells Dr. Phil she hates black people. And you can actually see this video. Go watch it out, or you can type in a Dr. Phil video and see her. The type in that woman that hates being black. This is another one. I'm tired of being black, and I hate Kylie Jenner. She don't like being black neither. Let me get more. Let me get more. And it's not talking about hate black people hating other black people, just for hating each other off of hatred for hatred's sake, but actually hating yourself because of your hate being the skin color you in. Okay, I hate. Check this out now. Now this woman right here.
SJVC has been training medical assistants to hit the ground career ready for over 40 years. Gain the confidence.
I can't stand these people. I literally hate them. I'm not in solidarity with these black women online at all. I don't fucking like them. So I will
Now,
never
excuse
be
her
in
language.
solidarity with these black bitches. Because you bitches are backstabbers. That's another one of the reasons.
No, this is a dark-skinned activist admit she hates being black. Sister that's going off on her because she don't
Real hair.
because she don't agree with it.
Deal with a dark-skinned woman. She go buy my own clothes. My mama and daddy want to provide mediocre child, please. I'm just here to let y'all know
So-
that y'all.
So she hate being black. It says why rappers hate dark-skinned women. They go into a whole video on that, but you're gonna see a lot of video. Look, I hate being black and dark-skinned. This is the original video that sister was going in on her about because you know what I'm saying? She like, I can't even trust you. She like, I can't even trust you if you first of all being that dark and you hate being dark-skinned, that means you hate other dark-skinned women. So she like, damn, you hate me. I can't even trust you. You might stab me in the back. And this is her. This is the original video. Am I gonna show it? No, I just want y'all to see that she really about to go in on being black. Look, Dominican says her people don't identify as black in the US to avoid treatment. See, so she know the reason why she don't identify with darkness or having dark skin or being black, a black person is because she knows what type of trouble she would face, right? So with that said, I'm gonna conclude this lesson. Y'all can go back and watch all type. There's so many videos out there of black people that pretty much hate their blackness. You know, especially Cape Verdeans. Matter of fact, let me type in Cape Verdeans real fast. Cape Verdeans. You know, this is Verdean, right? Now, check this out. Cape Verdean identity crisis. Now, this is just one Cape Verdean woman.
It's me, Silva. I haven't gotten out of bed yet because, like most people, as soon as I open my eyes, give my daughter her bottle, I check my Facebook. And on Cape Verdean Beautiful People, there's another video discussing this very important topic, which is about Cape Verdeans being African and recognizing their true roots. Okay, I was gonna get all cute
right, because Cape Verde is in Africa, right? But they don't identify as so-called African, but it's mainly the excuse themselves from being black at all. And I don't agree with the term African, but just like Mexican or American, it's a country. It's a way of identifying yourself with a country, but ultimately about the country with these people. It's about the blackness that comes with it, right?
I ain't got time for that. I gotta get this out right here and it's really disappointing and really disturbing to me. Okay, in the last video that I just saw, there was a woman saying, you know, I think that this whole argument is pretty senseless. It doesn't matter if one person who's Cape Verdean identifies more with being Portuguese or with being African. Oh no, man, Pam. Oh yes, it does matter. Let me tell you why. Because throughout history, not only Cape Verdean people, but all ethnicities that have African in them have been taught and brainwashed to neglect that aspect of them. And that is disgusting. Okay? And let me tell you why this is a subject that is worthy of speaking. Because we're in what, 2015? And we have a young lady telling the world on video, showing people that here I am. This is Cape Verde, this is Africa, but I'm not African, more so Portuguese. That's a crying shame. That someone so young, this late in the game, is still doing that. And it's not her fault. This is something that has been taught to us. We were enslaved by the Portuguese. I'm not going to say we were enslaved because it wasn't like Cape Verdeans were enslaved by Portuguese. So, supposedly the islands were uninhabited. That's what it says on Google. A person like me, I don't necessarily believe everything that.
So y'all can watch that out too. Cape Verdean identity crosses, and when you go down it, you're gonna see more stuff about how the Cape Verdeans don't consider themselves a black people and all. Like the black nation of Cape Verde. It actually says that, but when you go down and you see a lot of these Cape Verdean videos about Cape, they don't identify with black or blackness, man. They identify with being Portuguese. They proud of being Portuguese, and that thing is going on all around the areas of the diaspora of Israel. You know, we identify with the oppressors rather than identifying with the origins of actually what our people originally looked like before mixing with these heathens or these strangers, right? So with that, I want to conclude. It was a good go. I'll probably chop this out into sections to make it more visual for everybody, but I just want to really thank everybody that came on and everybody that's going to tune in later. I pray that the Most High take care of all of y'all and keep y'all all in his tucked under his wing and give y'all more understanding and enlightening, not just from my videos, but watch as many videos about the Israelites as possible. You're going to see some bad apples in there teaching nonsense, but if you pay attention and you look into it enough, you're going to see way more Israelites teaching good things, righteous things, and teaching the actual truth about who we are and what we need to be doing in these last days. By Shem HaMashiach Yahweh Shah. So with that, I want to say Shalom. Most High in Christ bless you all.